Trump and Trump's defense moved to disqualify Fani Willis because of the Nathan Wade scandal. We know that they got criticized for their hot dog scandal by the Fulton County citizen in a city council meeting. But now Fani is under more scrutiny. Apparently in Georgia, they are considering actually impeaching her, and Trump is moving to disqualify her. So she's catching it on multiple fronts. Now we're going to see what is inside both of these documents, starting with Donald Trump's motion to disqualify the biggest Fani in Georgia. Filed in Fulton County, the state of Georgia. The case is state of Georgia versus Donald Trump. This is a Trump motion. You can see this was drafted by his team, Stephen Sado, coming into Georgia. He says, Your Honor, President Trump now moves this court to adopt and supplement the above titled motion filed by the co-defendant Roman that we've read through previously here. And so remember, Mike Roman is another co-defendant. This is the RICO case. So a bunch of co-defendants, 19 in total. Several of them have already pleaded guilty. But Trump is now attaching himself to this motion from Roman. And Mike Roman was, through his lawyer, the gentleman who, via Ashley Merchant, basically blew the lid on this whole thing. She said, we know about this inappropriate relationship. We know about these records. We've got the billing from public records requests and all the things, attached it all together. And now it's developed for a little bit. And so Trump is now joining it. Now that prior motion, they give us some background. And it's not just what she alleged in the motion. It's also the response by Fani to the allegations in the first place. The original motion alleged, among other misconduct, that there is an improper, intimate personal relationship that existed between Wade and Willis, and that Wade has been paid over $650,000 by Fani, and that taxpayer monies were used by Wade to take Fani on lavish vacations. Now, highly significant to the merits of the adopted motion, Trump points out that after Roman's motion was filed, and after the court announced an open court that intended to hold a hearing on the motion in February, which is coming up soon, and Fani's got a deadline to respond to this. So in other words, Fani knew before she went out to speak that the judge was going to inquire about this, but she needed to get out there and persuade the conversation, set the narrative. So then after, on January 12th, the judge said, hey, we're having a hearing on this, so kind of, get ready for that. Fani went out on Sunday, January 14th, on a Sunday, during Martin Luther King Jr. National Holiday Weekend, when everybody's paying attention. She was in a religious public forum in her church, and she made racially charged extrajudicial statements outside of her office, outside of the court, designed to defend against and divert and deflect attention from the alleged misconduct outlined in Roman's motion. In public, right? This is a public person defending this, making a giant speech to her constituents and people who will also be on the jury. Wow. Now, there was a keynote speech that she gave, and we'll pull up a clip of what they're referencing here, but we listened to quite a bit of it back when it happened. D.A. Willis gave a keynote speech at Atlanta's historic black church called Big Bethel AME Church, a speech wherein, without mentioning the alleged affair or even trying to put her alleged malfeasance in context, she repeatedly and inappropriately injected race into the case and stoked racial animus by, among other things and other statements, asking God why the defendants were questioning her conduct in hiring a black man, but not his white counterparts. We had a simple conclusion. We thought that the distinguishing feature here was intercourse. That was my original take on that. I thought, well, why were we questioning her conduct? It's not because you hired him. It's because you slept with him. Unless, of course, she also slept with the white guy, which I don't think happened. Or the white woman, which maybe happened. I could be curious. I don't know. Maybe they did. I'd be curious about that. I'd be like, wow, okay, wow. Then they're all kind of equal, right? But no, because she slept with only one of them, which is very racist. Very racist. If she's going to sleep with one, she should sleep with everybody because diversity solves all, according to them. So, and why? She also said why the judgment of a black female Democrat wasn't as good as white male Republicans. Well, I think if a white male Republican also slept with his special counsel, we'd have some questions about that. We'd also be questioning their judgment, But this is complicated. I'm not sure. So the DA's speech lasted approximately 35 minutes. It was mind-numbing. Was widely reported on by local and national media outlets. So it was amplified by everyone and broadcast all over YouTube. Now, let's play a little bit of this clip before we move on, just so we can refresh our recollection here. This was Fani when she was defending her hiring of Nathan Wade via Anna Bauer. Here's what Fani said in the church.
But dear God, are you listening? Why does Commissioner Thorne and so many others question my decision in a special counsel?
Because you slept with him,
A
allegedly.
hard-headed and imperfect child, I'm a little confused. I appointed 3 special counsel, as is my right to do, paid them all the same hourly rate. They only attacked 1.
Interesting, that hourly rate comment. Did you notice that one? I didn't catch that the first time around. Paid them the same hourly rate. Okay, yeah, but then you gave them like 4 hours, 400 hours. Not sleeping with you. Here, you get like 10 hours. Ew, not sleeping with you. You're getting like 15 hours. You're a woman after all. And to you, sir, how about 400 hours for your tremendous work? Keep it up. See you later tonight. So he got $650,000. The other 2 got less than 100 grand.
I hired 1 white woman, a good personal friend and great lawyer, a superstar, I tell you. I hired 1 white man, brilliant, my friend, and a great lawyer. And I hired 1 black man, another superstar, a great friend.
But you slept with him. You slept with him.
Oh Lord, they gonna be mad when I call them out on this nonsense. First thing they say, oh, she gonna play the race card now.
Okay, and
but
what?
No, God.
She's gonna do it.
Isn't it them who's playing the race card when they only question 1?
No.
Isn't it them playing the race card when they constantly think, I need someone from some other jurisdiction in some other state to tell me how to do a job I've been doing almost 30 years. God, why don't they look at...
All right, so she goes on and on. Now, invoking the race card, right? And there's a bunch more of this if you want to lose some more brain cells. But here is where Trump picks up. He says, you know, the article includes a transcription of the whole speech. And here's part of the problem, right? I appointed 3 special counsel. I hired 1 white man, blah, blah, blah. We know that. Oh, Lord, they know when we're going to be mad when I call them out. But God, isn't it them who's playing the race card? Why don't they look at themselves? Come on. Why are they so surprised that a diverse team that I assembled, your child can accomplish extraordinary things? He's got impeccable credentials. The black man I chose has been a judge for more than 10 years. He's run a private practice. He was basically a civil traffic ticket judge, by the way, at a municipal, I think it was a small, like he wasn't like a felony trial judge or something, all right? With all due respect to all judges, right? There's different roles, but don't imply that he's handled a bunch of RICO cases, for example. Now, y'all are served as a prosecutor, a criminal defense lawyer, special assistant to the AG. How come, God, the same black man I hired was acceptable when a Republican in another county hired him and paid him twice for the rate? Why is the white male Republican's judgment good enough, but the black female Democrats are not? All over the place, okay? Fox5Atlanta.com. And I know that, you know, we're all tired of hearing this, but the point is, this is something that is being, you know, regurgitated all over Atlanta, all over Georgia, which is exactly where the jury pool is. So specifically, says Trump, the DA's extrajudicial comments set out in the footnote 1, those words specifically, they constitute a glaring, a flagrant, and a calculated effort to foment racial bias right into this case by publicly denouncing Trump for somehow daring to question and Roman and the rest of the co-defendants. But say Trump because I think he's the lightning rod. Everybody else is just collateral damage, ultimately. They want him. They're ransacking the lives and wrecking the livelihoods of everyone else involved just to get to him. So she is now tipping the scales publicly against everybody. And we know Trump can't talk about anything, right? He's been gagged multiple times. He was gagged in DC. He was gagged by Engoron because if he says a single thing, oh no, they're all going to have their courtroom under attack from Trumpers. But now this woman's coming out and she is doing the opposite. So for somehow daring to question her decision to hire a black man without also mentioning that she is alleged to have had a workplace affair with the same man, didn't tell us about any of that, hired him to be the special prosecutor. Now these assertions by the DA, they engender a great likelihood of substantial prejudice towards Trump in the eyes of the public in general and the prospective jurors in Fulton County in particular. Moreover, Fani's self-serving comments came with the added and the sought-after benefit of garnering racially based sympathy for her self-inflicted quagmire. Yeah, don't blame your affair on Republicans. Now, that being said, the DA's comments directly ran afoul of Georgia's rules of professional conduct. They're digging in. Georgia prosecutors have responsibilities under Rule 3.8. The rules say the prosecutor in a criminal case, this is what she has to do, and this is a different position also between a prosecutor and a defendant. Okay, a defendant is not a prosecutor. A defendant has free speech, a lot more so than the prosecutors do, because they have the power, you understand? They have the charging power. So then to give them that power plus the bully pulpit where they can go and speak to everybody from their position of power, the defendant doesn't have that. The defendant has the free speech. That's why we have the right to speak out, because when we're being prosecuted by a corrupt, tyrannical government, our only remedy is the First Amendment. That's why it's the first. We speak out about that, especially especially when it's about political prosecutions and so on. But this is not her position, right? She's the prosecutor who got busted having a Nathan's hot dog. And it's now her opportunity to use that position of power to battle back the criticism. So the rules say not supposed to do this, okay? Rule 3.8G, Fani, pay attention. The prosecutor in a criminal case shall, it's not optional, shall automatically refrain from making extrajudicial comments that have a substantial likelihood of heightening public condemnation of the accused. Pretty clear. Heightening public condemnation of the accused. Well, they're defending themselves by saying that this is a corrupt prosecution, and she's saying that they are racist. So you can see how that is public condemnation. She's calling the people who are defending their case that she brought racists. Now, the maximum penalty for the violation of this rule is called disbarment. We'll see if anything happens to her. But they give us some more details. Now, the rules, the way this works with bar rules, ethical rules, is they cite the rule and then they explain the rule. There's a comment to the rule. The comment explains what this means and how this works. So they say, all right, well, if that wasn't clear enough for Fani, if there's a substantial likelihood that she comes out, speaks to a historic church in Atlanta that is regurgitated all over Atlanta and the nation, speaking badly, condemning them for questioning her, daring to, calling them racists. If that wasn't clear, 3.8 says, paragraph G supplements this, talking about trial publicity. Now, trial publicity, rule 3.6, prohibits extrajudicial statements that also have a substantial likelihood of prejudicing an adjudicatory proceeding. Now, in the context of a criminal prosecution, a prosecutor's extrajudicial statement can create the additional problem of increasing public condemnation of the accused. Meaning, if a prosecutor says something, it might cause some problems. Now, although the announcement of an indictment, for example, will necessarily have severe consequences, a prosecutor, this is a comment, can and should avoid comments which have no legitimate law enforcement purpose and have a substantial likelihood of increasing public opprobrium of the accused, which is exactly what Fani did. So don't speak about this stuff unless you have a real reason for this. This is why prosecutors always say, we speak through our filings, we'll speak in the court of law, can't comment on an ongoing investigation, all the stuff. Supreme Court also made this clear, citing this case from 1935, Berger versus United States, they tell us, the prosecutor is the representative not of an ordinary party to a controversy, but of a sovereignty, the government, whose obligation to govern impartially, yeah, right, we lost that a long time ago, is as compelling as its obligation to govern at all, and whose interest, therefore, in a criminal prosecution is not that it shall win a case, which has been perverted. This has been so manipulated. Prosecutors just, that's all they think about, but that justice shall be done. Not all of them. Now, as such, she or he is in a very peculiar, the prosecutor, and very definite sense, the servant of the law, the twofold aim of which is that guilt shall not escape or innocence shall suffer. The prosecutor may prosecute with earnestness and vigor indeed, and she should do so. But while she may strike hard blows, she is not at liberty to strike fouls. It is much better and much her duty to refrain from improper methods calculated to produce a wrongful conviction as it is to use every legitimate means to bring about a just one. Now, Trump's defense continues. And just apply this to the United States currently. Think about all the things that Jack Smith has done. Think about all the things that somebody like Liz Cheney has been involved in. They are setting out on a mission to lead to indictments to remove their political opponents. There is no sense of justice anymore. This is how they talked back in 1935. Now, people on the left just scream about democracy. Well, democracy though. What if Trump gets elected? Our democracy is at stake. Shush. Yeah. So Trump's defense continues. Now, the awesome power to prosecute ought never to be manipulated for personal or political profit or prosecution for pay, where Fani is paying her lover and going on cruises. Now, in addition to the extensive misconduct that was alleged in Roman's motion, Fani did just that in her speech. She wrongfully inserted racial animus into this case to publicly denounce and to rebuke the defendants, and to defend her personal and political reputation against the numerous and diverse allegations Roman made in his court filing, responding to him in the public eye, setting the narrative to get them on her side rather than responding in the court of law or even addressing the claims. Now, the DA's provocative and inflammatory extrajudicial racial comments made in a widely publicized speech at a historical black church in Atlanta and cloaked in repeated references to God reinforce and amplify the appearance of impropriety in her judgment and her prosecutorial conduct. And although this court may not have the authority to disbar DA Willis, it certainly does have the power to dismiss the indictment and to disqualify her. The special prosecutor she hired and her office from any further involvement in this case or any related matter, and it should do so here. So they write in conclusion that President Trump respectfully prays that the court grant this motion to adopt and supplement Roman's motion and provide the relief requested, namely the dismissal of this indictment, the disqualification of Big Fani Willis, and all the special prosecutors she hired, including Nathan's Hot Dog and her office, signed by Stephen Sado and Jennifer Little, representing Donald Trump in their defense. And so we'll see what Judge McAfee does with this. Of course, the judge is going to be waiting for Fani's response. She'll be sending that in, I believe, February 2nd. And then we'll have a hearing on it certainly thereafter, and we'll be covering it as we go through it. Now, we're not done in Georgia because Fani is still in hot water. Now, the Georgia legislature is considering whether to impeach her. This woman is named Representative Charlize Byrd. She is a representative from Georgia, 20th District, a Republican, Freedom Caucus chair out there in Georgia. Says, with freedom on the line, bold action is necessary. It's time for the legislature to do its constitutional duty and hold corrupt Fulton DA Fani Willis accountable, which is why I've introduced H.R. 872 articles of impeachment. You can read my full statement below. And here's what she says. Now, she's a 6-term incumbent from Cherokee County, saying Willis is known for pursuing a high-profile indictment against Trump, and she's come under scrutiny, and now she must be impeached. Saying the people demand this impeachment. We must do our job as public officials, and when rights of Americans are being grossly violated, it's time for us to act, and we must impeach Fani. Now, this is what the impeachment articles look like, courtesy of Representative Byrd from Georgia, saying we have some background as usual in these indictment documents, but she gives us some background. She says, you know, quite some time ago, Fani Willis took office back in January 2021. She swore that she is going to do her duties impartially. And after that, she was sworn in. But Fani knowingly, at some point, willfully and intentionally initiated an internal Fulton County investigation to deal with 2020. And this is interesting, saying as a part of this investigation, Fani Willis knowingly and willfully withheld evidence of fraud, errors, and irregularities in the 2020 election from the Fulton County Special Grand Jury, causing them to reach a false conclusion that no widespread fraud took place in Georgia. Wow. So this is much broader than just Fani getting Willised by Wade, you know? Like that, using public funds, all of that stuff is, I thought, what the scope of this was going to be. But no, much broader. In fact, when she was leading the grand jury, she was hiding evidence of fraud. There was a conspiracy. There were debates about this. They were doing investigation. And so since she hid that, she caused the grand jury to reach a false conclusion. Wow, love it. And that resulted in 19 people being indicted. Now, she initiated a wrongful criminal prosecution against the 19 co-defendants. You know who they are. Whereas in all counts of the individual indictment, the evidence consists only of statements made, just statements, where there was no malice or malicious intent at all. And so she's violating the Constitution and the protections of the First Amendment incorporated via the 14th Amendment in this prosecution, saying that there's acts of malfeasance, tyrannical partiality, oppression. All of those were committed by her office in this prosecution, saying a public officer may be charged under this section of Georgia Code for malpractice. And that's appropriate here. Why? Because Fani Willis, the DA in Atlanta, engaged in an inappropriate relationship with Nathan Wade, paid him nearly $700,000. And Fani really enjoyed those cruises, got some nice financial benefits. In fact, they say that Fani here has violated honest services fraud under 18 U.S. Code 1346, federal code, saying the impeachment charges enumerated show that Fani Willis committed prosecutorial misconduct and that the office is not conducive to the interests of this state. She violated her oaths of office. She has no immunity for those violations, and she's subject to impeachment. So be it resolved via this impeachment document that Fani be impeached for violating her oath as a public officer. Why? Prosecuting Trump on RICO is solely being done for the purpose of advancing DA Willis's political career. That's it. And it grossly violates her oath. The prosecution of Rudy does the same thing. John Eastman and others violates her oath. A different count for every single defendant here. Mark Meadows, Chesebro, who took a guilty plea. Jeffrey Clark, Ellis took a plea for diversion. They're all going to be dismissed. And others. Michael Roman, shout out to him and his team. All of them listed in these articles of impeachment. But more than that, not only is she prosecuting these people inappropriately, unlawfully, she swore an oath to be impartial, but she has violated that. She is engaged in a prosecution that includes prosecutorial vindictiveness. She is withholding material material evidence from the grand jury to hide the truth, saying that she swore an oath here, and upon being elected, she swore that she was not the holder of any unaccounted money for public money in this state, but she already owed the state late fees stemming from her candidacy for office. Don't know what that's about. False swearing. She says, I don't know anybody money, but apparently she did have late fees for something. So she's unqualified, and she also violated her oath. She said that I was only going to take only my lawful compensation, but no, she didn't. She profited big time from an unethical relationship with Nathan Wade in the amount of $700,000. So in Georgia, they say, be it further resolved that the clerk of the House of Representatives transmits this over. Senate will make their voices heard there, and we'll see where this goes. So Fani Willis in a bunch of hot water today. Impeachment proceedings percolating over there in Georgia. We've got Trump joining a motion to disqualify. Fani's got her response due this Friday. We're going to be covering it, my friends. So don't forget to subscribe wherever it is you're watching this. And thanks for checking out the website, robertgovea.com. Links are in the description. If you want to read any of the PDFs, catch the show report, sign up for our daily newsletter so you can get all of this stuff summarized and sent to your inbox the following day. That's the place to do that. We'll look forward to seeing you back here on the next one.